Hello, and welcome back to the Your Everyday Strength podcast. My name is Josh, and if you are just joining us for the very, very first time, thank you so much for being here. However, if you are returning, again, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time as always. And today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Travis Cochran. I will allow him to introduce himself, give us a bit of a 411 on who he is, and then we're just going to dive in, and it's going to be a very action-packed, fucking actionable steps. Everything's going to be coming at it today. So I'm very excited for this chat.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it for me to just say who I am and what I do. And if anyone can see right now in the back of that little poster, the technician, my mate of mine gave me that moniker based off a few years back. We were walking along the beach. We're going through our own stuff through COVID. And he essentially said to me, I love the way you try to rewire my mind. You're like a technician. And that's how it all started, bro. And so I started to understand the fact that I could really hold space really well, listen really well, and ask questions really well. And what that has led to is one of the top podcasts in Australia with the now called the Mindset Technician. I was calling it the Technician, but I think some people thought it was about cars and shit, so I had to change that. But now it's about rewiring the unconscious programming that helps us live a life that's conscious, because I find I myself, bro, I do this because I don't want people to experience what I did. You know, I went through a lot of depression and stuff as a young man. And I've found that rewiring shadows, limiting beliefs that hold us back from childhood or society may have put onto us, it lets us live a life that we actually want to live. Because I'm sure you can agree, bro, is like you see so many people kind of just getting by in life and not living how they want to live, whether it's in the job they do, the relationships they're in, the money they're earning, whatever it is, health even. I find people self-sabotage in that. So I help essentially rewire the patterns that hold them back in living a fulfilled life that they love.
Yeah, that's the best intro I think of anyone's ever given me so far. So that's perfect.
I'll do
And
my
just
best, bro. I'll
prepared
do
for
my
this.
best.
I love this. And I really like, that's such a brief overview of everything that you do and all that it encapsulates, because I know that, like, you obviously know this yourself, but I myself have been more or less, I'm very much at the very start of my journey of all of this sort of stuff. I'm just a wee little baby in the realm of shadows and limiting beliefs and rewiring and things like that. But for me, I've done so little and it's made such a massive impact. And for you said yourself that you've been at this for a while, and it's essentially been your life mission now. It's become something that you do every single day, and you've turned it into your world, your life, and an ability to help other people. And I think it really does all aspects of everything that we're looking for in this world. Like my original goal with this podcast, the Your Everyday Strength podcast, it's the same resemblance of my business, is finding strength and redefining what strength means for every single person from all planes of life: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all of these different aspects combined to redefine what strength actually is for people. So, the fact that you've actually been able to dive into the other aspect of things, more so than just the physical plane and everything like that. How did that sort of come about for you? You mentioned your mate gave you the name, and it's been something in the works for a while, but how did you sort of actually really dive into this and find that this is what your mission is?
Great question, Brian. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story too. And I'm excited to see what you're going to uncover, because I can already tell you're already quite a kind-hearted, conscious sort of dude, which is really cool to think that someone else like yourself is coming to the space of helping people believe and see this way, because we need more men like us, bro. Like, I can tell you that when someone's got a good heart and they care, that's all we really need. And then the more you add on to that with the information you're gathering, you're going to change people's lives. So that's really exciting. For me, I could sit here and tell you a 3-hour long story about the incredible hero's journey I've sort of been through, bro. But I think when I tell this story, it changes every time. And what's sort of dropping in right now is that I think this journey started as soon as I was born, because I look back at moments as a young man and I've always been that guy that everyone can sort of turn to. Obviously, being quite a big dude, I've been 6 foot since I was like 2 years old. So it's kind of like a given that everyone would sort of look to me as like the friendly giant sort of thing. So, but I guess it all, went through the whole football system at a young age. I was thrown into like the Broncos at 14 and then quit that at 17, which set me on an identity crisis. But I think going through that identity crisis from like 18 to 26 was really important for me because I went through suicide, I went through depression, I went through severe anxiety. Bro, like I was at a point where I was so shy when I was younger, I couldn't really talk to my parents. That's how awkward I was. Barely could talk to my mates. You know, that level of shyness to now running a podcast and coaching makes no sense, right? But that's what I say when I know that I was built for this from a young age, is that it was always leading to this. Whatever mission I was on, whatever my soul's purpose was, I was being given every single tool I could through the horrible things I went through, the emotional stuff, the relationship stuff, the everything I've actually had to step through in like my own hell. I can help people do it now because I've done it myself. And it started, bro, honestly, probably in rebel sport. Around about 26, 27, my fiance at the time left me. Um, we're still mates. It was no like I would have left me if I was there at the time, but I look back at it and I go, well, it happened for a reason because I hit rock bottom again, and it was either all right, I'm gonna go and kill myself again, or I'm going to start a clothing brand and find out about this entrepreneur world. Obviously, I'm here now, so I picked the clothing brand side with my best mate, and what sort of came after that, bro, was listening to podcasts, getting into mentors, books, all those sort of things at the age of 27. And that sort of led me down like, holy shit, there's a whole new world where people talk about mindset and what's possible. Change your mindset, change your life, like all these things, these incredible sayings that I had no idea about. And it all sort of culminated in 2020 when the world obviously shit itself. And I met a bloke by the name of Jordan Potts who got me onto Wim Hof breathwork and ice baths, and that's just where it all started, bro. I started getting into like, wow, you can change your state with breath and this shadow work stuff. I started reading, doing qualifications, going to all the events. And in that, which I'm sure we'll get to, in that short time since 2020 till now, I've now run giant workshops, retreats. I was a co-founder in two of the biggest self-development brands in Australia now, which is Heart Led Warriors and the Ripple Effect. And I was a key instrument in helping build that. And now I'm sort of doing my own thing. So as I said, to sort of answer your question in a long-winded way, I've always sort of known I've meant for more, but I was always terrified of actually stepping into it. Because I'd have customers at Rebel Sports saying, why are you just doing retail? Like, what else do you do? I'm like, what's the matter with doing what I'm doing? First of all. But I also knew something in me was like lit up every time they said that. I'm like, maybe there is more to this. So it has obviously led to this point now where I'm helping changing people's lives in sometimes one session, bro. So it's been really powerful journey so far.
Dude, that's incredible. And I think the long-winded questions are the answers sometimes are actually the best, because we can give all these short little answers and the answers that people perceive that they want. But in actuality, anybody who's going to listen to this, anybody who's going to take value from this, they're the type of people who appreciate that information. They're the type of people who can sit there and say, well, this guy's come from rock bottom. They might be in retail and they might be doing all these other things. And it's like, well, I can relate to that. That's actually something that's similar to me. And it's so fucking weird you say that, because I myself have a very similar journey, in the sense that I was doing retail as well before I did coaching.
Mm,
And similar sentiment, I've always, and I've said this a couple of times in previous episodes, I've always known there was something a little bit different about me. I could never really articulate what it was, but I could always knew that there was just something different. There was something different about me as a person, the way in which I related to people within my emotions, the way in which I've always been told I'm a pretty emotional guy,
mm,
very in tune with my emotions and things like that from a very young age. And I've always had that weird sort of yearning, similar to what it sounds like you had, where I've known that there was more for me. I just didn't necessarily understand what. And we briefly touched on it, before the podcast started, where I pretty much always knew from a very young age that I was coming to the Gold Coast. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know what was leading me there, but I was always coming to the Gold Coast. And through a very similar journey through late teens, things like that, going through depression and attempting suicide myself, I was at a job in retail and working the registers, and I'd always have great conversations with people and connect. And there was a few times where I'd be invited to different events, and I started to try and dive into different aspects of things that avenues that I was potentially chasing. When in actuality, when I turned back around and went to coaching, I was like, well, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And
mm.
that's very clearly evolved over the years. But I think that journey that we need to go on, and all of those horrible experiences, again, fucking so weird. And I think this is something very common that I've found the more I meet people like yourself and the more I meet some more like-minded people, is everything that we've gone through you could summarize it and say there's been some fucking very horrible things, and there's things that I would never wish upon another human being in my life. And if I can help one person to never have to go through something that I've gone through, then I'm a happy man. I'm very, very stoked with where that's gone to. But we need to have gone through those things to then be able to help facilitate other people not going through them. And I think it does take a very special person to be able to go through that, come out of the other side, look it in the face and say, fuck you. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to help people, and I'm here to drive people in a better direction, whatever that might be. Obviously, it's paying off for you because you're very successful in what you do, and how you've managed to achieve these things. Within that, before we dive too much deeper, we've mentioned it a couple of times now, shadow work. Can you give like a really brief sort of summary to those who may not know what shadow work is, or maybe just on the cusp of starting to learn a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, bro, and thank you for sharing that. I'm really excited to see where your journey's leading, considering you're meeting the right people. Because I find that on my journey, I've had these little whispers. I call them whispers, where it's like you see the angel numbers, you know, the 222s, or you meet a dude that you're like, oh my god, same stuff happened to me, and you know, these little iterations of like, I'm on the right path. And it's always, you're always being shown in some way. In some way, you're being shown what is it I'm meant to be doing. And like you said, I love what you said around the whole pain piece, is that your pain becomes your purpose a lot of the time, I find, for people in this space. And I think that's what makes me so good at what I do, because I have been through hell. Walking someone else through it next to them is really easy for me now. So, and that's what makes changes in this space so incredible, is that if you are about to share something that you've never shared with someone and they flinch, you feel it in their nervous system, in their eyes, in their way they respond, you're going to close back up, and you're not going to be able to move that energy that was ready to be moved. I think that's what makes me so good at what I do, is that because I've heard and seen and been through pretty much everything that I help with, nothing bothers me, bro. So being able to share, it only happened 2 weeks ago. One of my male clients, he's never shared this shame that he's had for 30 years. And I just met him. He hadn't even shared it with his wife. And it literally changed him just like that, because he was able to share in a really safe space that was trusted. And I just sat there and I was like, cool, thanks, bro. And he was waiting for me to like judge him or say something or break down or something. I was like, cool, tell me more. Let's go. And just helping him sort of integrate it, right? So when you're at that point, you know that you're a healer if you've been through the shit that you've had to heal through yourself. And I'm not saying I'm here and healing people, but I'm here to hold people to allow themselves to do their own healing and empowering themselves, because that's what it's all about. So when it comes to shadow work, it's a lot about questioning, because what shadows tend to be, and from my experience of learning through Carl Jung and some of the stuff I've done around the certifications, is the easiest way to put it, bro, is like it's the suppressed parts of ourselves. So whether that be good or bad. Now, as children, we're born into this world, and the best way I've probably heard it said is Teal Swan. I don't know if you've heard of her before.
I haven't actually.
Teal Swan's amazing. So I remember she explained it in the way of, we're born into this world and we are laptops. And this laptop child, mum and dad open it up and they're like, okay, so you're not allowed to express anger. You also are not allowed to do this. So they start to create this software on our program or on our hardware, and those parts of us then become what they want us to be. But then we know deep down there's actually parts of us that we truly want to express, but they get sort of suppressed by mum and dad, by society, by siblings, saying that version of you is not allowed to be seen or heard. So we suppress that. So then those shadows are seen within other people. So it might be someone who's really confident on stage, and you like, I don't fucking like that guy for some reason. Oh, probably because part of you wants to be like that, or you know that part of you needs to be up there or wants to be up there. So your triggers are the best way to show you what needs to be looked at within internally. A lot of the time I hear a lot of people say, I just don't like such and such for some reason. Oh, okay, tell me more. Oh, they just seem really fake. Okay, so what part of you feels fake? And it's like, not all the time is that the case, but a lot of the time it's the best way for me to see. And I just use a thing for my clients, bro, as a trigger tracker. So we're tracking all your triggers during the day and during the week. It's like, well, what was that trying to teach you in that moment? Why did that thing trigger you? And we start to become aware of our little shadows. And the visual I usually use for clients is the mind mountain. So people think that climbing to the top of the mountain's the way to do it. You know, reach your goals, drive harder, be better. It's like, no, motherfucker, we're going into the mines deep first, and then I'll take you up the mountain. So we have to go in there and we have to find the little gremlins and the goblins hidden behind the rocks and in the crevices that are causing the issues. You know, the shadow around relationships where it's like you can't be held in your in emotional state because part of you doesn't feel safe doing so. So there's like some sort of shadow there around relationships that we need to shine light on. So you stop playing out the survival mechanism that you've created to protect yourself, or it doesn't line up with how you're perceived in an external way. There's a hidden part of you, which is the shadow. We need to bring it to the light so we know that's your truth. And that's when you start to live a life that's a bit more conscious, a life that's a bit more true to you, and you start showing up, you know, when people say authentically.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
information for anyone listening, but yeah, it's shadow work for myself has absolutely changed my life. And I would highly recommend anyone getting into it because you can do daily shadow journal questions and things like that that bring things up just by you doing pen to paper. It's been incredible.
Yeah. 1,000%. And actually listening to one of your episodes the other day, exactly around that shadow work. It was
Mm.
one of your solo sessions, but shadow work is something that I first started to dive into probably the back end of last year. And I just bought there was a book at Big W that was actually called Shadow Journal or Shadow Work Journal or something. And it had just prompts. It was essentially just prompting me just to go through some stuff. And I found that the more I went through and the deeper I went, there's some really, really, really uncomfortable shit you have to see and sit with and go through. And I know myself that if I'd maybe seen that 6 months before, I wouldn't have been in a space to be able to facilitate it. I wouldn't have even been ready. I wouldn't have been willing. I wouldn't have even been, opted to do so.
Mm.
But it was within finding that, and again, similar thing you were mentioning before about whispers. I refer to them generally as synchronicities. There's like but I love the term whispers. That's amazing. It's just those little sort of intuitive downloads where it's like, this is meant to happen, or this is happening as it's meant to, or you're thinking about a certain thing, and then you do see the angel numbers with a relation to 222 or 444 or 111, and you're kind of like, okay, cool, all right, I'm on the right track. I'm headed in the right direction to where I need to go. And the more I've started to dive into shadow work recently, and the more I've started to uncover, the better I've just been able to have a different lens of the world and the way in which we then change our projection and our perception. Because something that I have learned is that, and you mentioned it already a little bit briefly in there, is like if you're jealous of the guy on stage and you're like, oh, fuck that guy, he's loud or he's this or he's that. It's like, okay, well, what within you wants to be that? Or what is it exactly that you're sitting with that makes you feel that way? And then it's essentially just you're projecting onto them either an insecurity or a pain point from internal, and it's just your perception. Again, someone might say something to you in a certain way, and your perception of it is skewed because of the last 15 years of your life. You might have the same person say something to you in 6 months' time, and it has a completely different perception. And I think that the way in which to actually look at that and through that for anybody who is listening to this who may not have dove into it or even looked at it in the past, because I know a lot of this stuff can be seen as woo-woo or a little bit out there or a little bit hard, especially for men to look at and dive into, when I know you know this, but like I've learned myself that like, dudes, we fucking need to dive into this more. We need to do this more.
It honestly is life changing, bro. When people start to see the benefits of it and start to embrace the fact that maybe it's just a real thing, because I think we can label things so quickly, and men want to be seen as strong and not soft and all these things. But I find that a lot of men get into this. They're shown in our generation, like we said, from say around that 25 to 40-ish. You know, we grew up with a generation of fathers that probably worked their asses off to provide, and they weren't really emotionally available. So we were taught that love was performative. So we had to perform to be loved. We couldn't be loved unconditionally, and couldn't be loved other than what do we do? What do we provide? What are we bringing home? What do we bring to the table? All those sort of things, which are all beautiful things for men to do, right? Like that is a great thing. But it's like we start to dive into these softer things or more feminine things, which might be the internal connection and, creativeness and slowing down. And what I've found, bro, is that I'm stronger than ever when I'm slower. When I'm doing less, I am more powerful in what I do. When I'm looking after myself, I can show up better for my fiance, my dog, my mates, my family, because I've recharged myself. I'm looking after myself. So I think that's starting to shift, which is cool. Like a lot of men would have been brought up to be like the white knight, like I must martyr myself and kill myself for everyone else. It's like, no, dickhead, like you actually have to look after yourself so you can show up for them. Because you hear that
Yeah.
cliche old thing of like, I die for my family. It's like, cool, are you going to live for your family? Are you going to do the things that make you better, so that the ripple effect is that your little boy becomes a better man because of you? Because you chose to become a better man, he becomes a better man. Why don't we focus on creating a better generation rather than you being so fucking hell-bent on trying to prove how tough you are, rather than looking at that little boy and saying, how can you help him connect to his heart so that he doesn't become a logical man that hurts other women or other men or any other people because he doesn't understand his own emotions. And you can probably tell I get a bit passionate about that because my partner's been through DV, and I've held a really beautiful safe space for her to heal from all that, which has been amazing to be that man for her. And like I sit in it and I go, I come from such a subjective place of I understand why this shit happens. Doesn't make it okay, but I want to provide an example that shows both men and women that it's possible to change as well.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking beautiful. Honestly, I love that so much. And I love the passion. I genuinely, I think being passionate about these things, it conveys a certain type of emotion. It's
Mm.
very easy to just, you can recite this stuff, you can talk about it, and if you don't convey that emotion, if you don't convey the passion that you have towards it, the, for lack of a better term, the buy-in from other people is going to be less. It's just a fact of nature. But people can see that you clearly give a fuck. They can see that you care about this so much. And a few of the things you touched on within that is so crazy. I think anyone who's going through this journey will resonate with this a lot, because I know myself that there's so many things you're saying that I'm just like, oh shit, me. And one of the big things that I've been diving through with this stuff is exactly what you mentioned about showing up better for children, for future children. So myself at the moment, I don't have any kids. One of my only real goal in life is to be a dad. That's all I really want. But over the last 9 months, my goal has been to be the best possible father that I can be, to show and give love and compassion to a child, to allow them to bloom and blossom into the next generation of man. Not healed, not hurting, not filled with trauma, none of this. A healed man who can make conscious decisions to be the best person that he can be for others, for future generations, and have a cascade effect through that aspect. And every single thing that I've been going through has always circled back to, how do I want to show up as a better father or a better future partner for my future partner or husband or whatever the case might be. And I think it's just beautiful that you've really honed in on that and teaching men that we don't need to be the white knights. You don't need to be the savior. You can do those things, but here's a different avenue of actually being that. Being a white knight is being there for your children, is supporting your children, is being a loving husband, partner, whatever, the son, brother, whatever it might be. And yeah, the fact you dove into that is, I love it so much.
Bro, picture this, and I love that you're like, I can't wait for you to be a dad because I know you're going to be an incredible dad. So that's very cool. And the mission you're going on right now is going to provide that as a platform for your future partner and for your kids and stuff. Well, are you dating at the moment? Like you're with someone?
No, I split with a partner in September, which kind of was the
Ah,
catalyst for all
that's
of
the
this.
catalyst. Yeah, yeah, gotcha. And it tends to be those sort of things, right? It's those moments for a lot of men. It's like the rock bottom or like the realization of like I need to get better so that I can be better for my future partners and things like that. So it's beautiful you're going down that path rather than going, fuck, chicks are all the same and all the other bullshit that I hear from so many guys. It's like, no, mate. When you're walking around and you keep smelling shit, maybe you need to check your foot. It's like a lot of guys keep saying, "Oh, she was just a toxic bitch." It's like, was was she, or
Mm,
you just relearn or recommitting programs that your father taught you that you never worked on? It's like things like that. So I look at it like you said, we can have all these white knights. I still want good men getting out and showing up for families and people around them, being the protectors, being providers. But imagine this, bro. I'm a very visual person and I love metaphors and stuff. So
let's go.
we've got a dragon attacking our town, and all the men need to suit up in their knight suits, their armor, all that sort of thing. What knight do you want protecting against this fucking dragon? Do you want the one that's been training, looking after himself, eating well, making sure he's rested, or the busted ass who's over here been smoking, drinking, not dealing with his emotions? His armor's not even buckled up properly. He hasn't been stretching or looking after himself. I know who I want looking after me, right? So it's like the dragon can be the stress of life. Like I find that when men, yes, all they're doing is providing money for the family to live, but what happens when they come home and they feel like shit because they've been working all the time? Who gets taken out on them because of that emotional instability, for them not regulating themselves, for them not finding a career that's worthwhile, or whatever it is? Like the family then gets hurt by the man that's trying to protect them. That doesn't fucking work, right? So you're here trying to defend your family from a dragon, and you end up becoming the dragon yourself by stepping in the house, by not regulating yourself, by not learning your emotions, like not learning your patterns. Like it makes no sense to me. And any of these men that try to stick into this whole like mindset, be stronger, the Marine style stuff where it's like Goggins and shit. I love that stuff. It's awesome. But what happens when you can't handle your emotions and you're not training? Because I'm sure you get a lot of people, bro, in the strength space where it's like they train to fucking fight their demons. But it's like your demons are within your body to be felt, not to be thought. So when we're just constantly just escaping our stuff by doing things and not actually just being with them, you're not actually doing anything. And that's what I say to a lot of the brothers. It's like, man, I hear that you're training, but what happens when you don't train? Oh, you feel like shit? I wonder why. Because you can't even sit with yourself. So you find yourself busy, gaming, drugs, alcohol, gambling, porn, validation from other women. So they tend to date a lot of different women or talk to a lot of women. And it's like, if you actually learn to just sit and look at the wall and sit with your shit for a bit, you might actually start to go through the things that you're trying to escape. And that's the thing. I don't think people wanted to hear that it's as simple as sitting with yourself. But it honestly, the real work, bro, it honestly is when you're feeling that, fuck, I feel like shit. Okay, go sit in your room for 5 minutes and see what actually comes up, because it takes 90 seconds for you to actually feel an emotion properly. And a lot of the time we're reacting to emotional reactions in our body and thinking that it's this when really it's this. So it's like connecting to your emotions and understanding what the actual emotion is, so you can start to shift that and change that.
Yeah, you nailed that part. And it's it's so refreshing to continue. It's refreshing to hear these things coming from another man like yourself. And I think in this world, maybe it is our job, maybe it's not, maybe it's our job to help the next generation realize that, essentially redefining what masculinity is
Mm.
and redefining what that actually means. Because as you said, right, like for the guys who are aged about 20, 40, their version of masculine is probably from their father, who was exactly that, was the white knight, never home, never emotionally available, worked there to the death for no reason, all of these other things, and then was too tired to come and do anything with their kids when they got home, or would drink or would smoke or would use all these other vices to try and calm themselves because they didn't know how to emotionally regulate. And then that's obviously set up a generation of men who can't emotionally regulate. And the cycle just keeps repeating. Something you mentioned there about sitting with yourself and actually going to sit. I did a podcast at the start of the year, and one of the things that I said in that was being lonely is only lonely if you're scared to sit with yourself.
Mm.
Because sitting with yourself and facing the shit that you're probably too scared to do, and you go and fill it with everything else. You mentioned the absolute list of things, and I'm sure there's 1,000 other things that guys use. And I know for years I would say, I don't need to go to a psychologist, I've got the gym. Oh, I'm going to the gym and that's my therapy. Like the gym is therapy to me. And it's like, cool, that was great. And then exactly that, if I would get injured, I would spiral. If I was sick, I would spiral. If I had to miss a session, I'd become irritable or angry or whatever the case might be. And it's like, is this helping me or is this hindering me?
Mm.
And that's something that took a very, very long time to actually confront, because again, we build up these perceptions of who people think we should be. And, I've been in the last 5, 6 years, I've been a powerlifting strength coach. So I had to be the biggest, the strongest, the big burly dude, covered in tattoos with a beard and all of this other shit. Like I had to have that perception for other people to see.
Mm.
And that, like, honestly, I can sit here and say that it just came from a mass amount of insecurity within myself.
And it's so cool to hear and refreshing to hear that, bro, because like how big were you at your biggest point when you were doing that?
Heaviest I got was 122.
How tall are you? Yeah, as a big boy, right? So like people would see you and perceive you a certain way. but then when they actually speak to you, they're like, oh shit, this dude's actually in touch with himself. Which that in to me that makes me want to know you even more, because it adds depth. It's like physically you're like this like specimen, but then when they feel you, that's a whole different world. Seeing you is different to feeling you, and that's what I want a lot of men to know is like, you can be the biggest, toughest looking dude, but if a woman cannot feel you and can't feel held in your presence emotionally, energetically, there's no chance. You're not going to be able to hold a relationship that's worthwhile being in, because you're going to continue to call in these relationships that are built off what they're seeing, not what they're feeling.
Yeah. 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 100%. And that is definitely, it's almost been, it's been a really weird, like, point of joy for me over years to have people perceive me to be one way, but then when they actually
Yeah.
get to know me, the amount of times people make comments, and even some of my closest friends, and they're like, I was intimidated by you when I first met you, or I was scared of you, or I was this and that, and I was like, oh, you're a softie, or you're so kind, or you're caring, or you're this. And that to me means more than them turning around and being like, fuck, you're massive, like you're jacked, you're this, you're that. And I was like, I always still use the external perception. I've always said, like, I know how I'm perceived by other people. I know that. And that's why I almost sometimes have to come across as overly friendly, not from a point of being fake, but to allow people to actually be able to see into me. And the more I've progressed through learnings recently and teachings and things like that, the more I want that perception more than the other perception. I want people to feel safe within me and feel comfortable around me and have that sort of that feeling when they're around me that they do feel safe or looked after or cared for or whatever the case might be.
That just there, bro, is that's something I feel like we don't talk enough about in this space, where we got men's work and all these sort of different things, and just how masculinity is actually perceived. And I find that masculine isn't necessarily doing, it's about holding presence, holding emotion, holding the chaos. If you're a man that can hold, not only for yourself, but the people around you, that's when the true shift starts to happen. Like, when you got stress is happening, chaos happening around you, if you're the man that can stay fucking solid in that, that to me is like what a true healthy masculine is. And then the feminine, I find, which, obviously men and women both have that energetics within them, and that system where it's more of feminine is not necessarily about receiving, it's about revealing, and that'll reveal things within yourself and also your partner. So my partner, bro, she is like super feminine. Like, that is her divine feminine. And she's revealed so much shit in me over the last 3 years where, as you said, there's always more, right? But the way that she reveals it is so beautiful and exposes my shadows and my wounds that might need some work on. And we just do that in such a beautiful way where we hold a conversation about it and just share what's going on for us in a really sort of like sacred sort of moment where we sit maybe just at the kitchen bench and just share what we're sort of both experiencing, come from a really beautiful place of like, oh, like how can I support you in this moment? And I mean, it's been cool to have her in my corner because she's someone who's done so much work and she understands this to a depth that I never knew existed, but I've been so open to it as a man that, like I said, I've been able to provide a space for her to heal, not from a way of like controlling and doing and thinking that I need to fix her. It's just literally holding a really beautiful space for her to do her own healing in a way. And that's the best part, is that I think a lot of partners get in these relationships, they think they need to do and fix their partner. They're broken, I need to help them, I need to change them. It's like, dude, what if you just provide a really beautiful space and environment at home where they can actually flourish? And that's been the most incredible part of this journey.
That end part there, the fix, that struck a chord, because that was basically the description of my last relationship. Is I felt I needed to be the person to fix my partner.
I can save her.
And I can forego how I feel to try and protect her, to try and save her, to try and be there for her, to try and love her. As you would very well know, that only can go so far. You can't fix other people. And I was abandoning myself constantly to try and do that. And it ended up showing up in other aspects of the relationship. And funnily enough, I spoke about it in last week's episode, how I was essentially then showing up as somebody that I did not want to be. And that was full circle, was because I was sitting there saying, I need to help fix her, when in actuality, I needed to help fix myself and just be there for her and show up for her. And I wasn't able to show up for her the way she needed me. And although I thought I was showing up for her the way I thought she needed me, there was never really a point where I showed up for her the way she needed me. And that that as we already spoke about, that was, this whole situation was the catalyst for all of the growth that I've tried to go through over the last 9 months, and all of the things I'm diving into. And the way you define masculinity as not doing but holding, I think is fucking beautiful. Like, I think that is the way it needs to be perceived by more people out in the world, because we do have this, and it just keeps coming back full circle. It's like the white knight aspect. It's like, we have to fix things, we have to do this, we have to be this, we have to do that. And it's like, you've said it, like, you don't try to fix your partner, you're just there. You're in her presence and you're able to be there for her, and she's able to be there for you. And I'm sure finding somebody like that has helped your journey, and you've definitely probably helped her journey. And there's a lot of hurt, the old saying, hurt people hurt people. There's a lot of unhealed people who aren't willing to dive into this, and it just comes from a place of not wanting to purposely hurt people, and sometimes we do it in ways we don't even think is actually hurting somebody else. But it just comes from that deep place of, there's work for us to do, and there's work for your partner to do.
Bro, like, beautifully said. And I'm so happy that's where you're at, Liam. That's what's sort of happening for you and unraveling, because what happens is we get more men like yourself, like myself, and, the clients that I'm putting out into the world and the mates I've got around me. Just imagine if we got all these amazing, beautiful, strong men holding a safe space for other people to heal. Not trying to fix them, not trying to do anything other than just put your arms out and be like, do what you got to do, bro. Do what you got to do. If you need to scream, if you need to yell, if you need to fight, I'm here. I got you. And that's all I do. I literally do that for anyone I'm around. It's like, I don't tell this stuff too often, because I don't want to be the guy that's like saying, hey, by the way, guys, I'm saving people's lives in the background, just so you know. But I'll share this purely because if I don't share it, someone else might not hear it. And I'm probably going to get emotional saying it because it hurts. At the moment, I've got a mate, well, not even a mate, I barely even know the dude. But it's a bloke who's reached out a few times through the DMs over the last 12 months. And I get a lot of this, a lot of people reaching out, just saying where they're at. And I'll share some stuff with them and just be there for them, without taking the piss out of myself and giving free coaching and stuff. But there's a bloke at the moment who is suicidal, and I've just been sort of supporting him the best I can and showing up, asking him the questions, but he just keeps ruminating, which, as you and I both know, in depression, you're constantly thinking about all the things you fucked up, the shame, the guilt. Why did I do this? Fuck, and you just can't get away from the past. And I'm just holding him. I'm not trying to make him get better. I'm not trying to say, man, just do this, go out and do ice baths and shit. I'm just sitting there. I'm just going, it's all good, bro. Like, tell me more. I'm here with you. I want to be next to you. I'm not going anywhere, because he's tried the hospitals. He's tried the psychologists. He's tried the psychiatrists. I've helped him find someone, to get their support. But sometimes the system doesn't work for some people. And I'm not saying it's a bad place. I think it's a beautiful place that we need. And so many of these organizations that we have are doing incredible things. But sometimes they just need a good human that can hold them. And I'll never step out of my scope, trying to say that I can help people that are suicidal and I can save you. It's none of that. Sometimes we literally just need a good human that might have been through it before and can hold the energy of it. And that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just showing up for him. If he needs to have a quick little back and forward in the DMs, I'm there. I tried to call him just to have a chat. I've suggested, he goes and gets the help from professionals and all these things. And I've enlisted a couple of his friends so we can sort of attack it together. But yeah, man, it's like, I find that when you're there and you can hold something like that and still show up, like, it's not bothering me one bit that I'm holding this. Maybe on an energetic level, it's a little bit, but I guess, bro, I realized that this 6'5", 140 kilo frame wasn't built to play football and hurt people as much as I did. It was to just hold people, to hold and just be like, hey, I got you. Because when you've got that, bro, when you're a human with these very real human fucking emotions and feelings and thoughts and shit going on, you're like a wild Mustang that's been put into the fenced off yard to try to calm you down, and there's a cowboy in there like, come on, let's go. And when it's a really beautiful like cowboy that's like been through his shit, he knows his stuff, he's not trying to beat you, and he's just there, he's like, hey, woo boy, woo. It's a whole different experience of, coming down into your calm self and trusting this person and trusting yourself. So, it's been a lot, and I've actually in the last 3 months probably supported about 15 different people going through pretty heavy shit. Even staying up till 2 a.m. talking to a mate who was ready to drive his car into a tree. So, as I said, I'll never sit here and say that I'm someone who's like stepping outside of your scope of practice. I always incorporate professionals to support there too. But I'm also willing to put my hand up and say, hey, how about I just be a fucking human and show up for this person that just needs someone to listen? And I find that that's probably the biggest help we can provide.
Yeah, dude. It's just so beautifully said. And I do really, I love the fact that you have said, like, you don't step out of scope of practice. Within my realm of strength training and nutrition, things like that, we obviously have our scope of practice as well, right?
Mm.
And I'm very much somebody who I will help someone to the fullest of my extent. If there is something out of my scope of practice, I'll do the exact same thing. I'll refer them on. Similarly, when we work face to face as a PT for years, I'd make a joke all the time being like, oh, I'm a part-time psychologist.
Mm.
Because you are there in person. You are holding space for that person, whether PTs realize it or not.
Yep.
And I actually spoke about this on a recent podcast I was talking about, where I was discussing 10 lessons I have learned as a PT, is you are holding space for others. It's a physical environment. They've shown up in the physical plane to come and train, but there is definitely an emotional aspect to that. That person might be having the worst day of their life. And you don't need to fix it. Just listen. Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. It's just a matter of another human being able to feel comfortable enough to express what's in their brain or their heart. And they come to the conclusion themselves sometimes. They come to these answers themselves. You don't even really need to do anything, but because you've been able to hold that space for them, now they've left that session or that message with you and they feel lighter, they feel better. They feel like, they've got that little bit of extra belief within themselves that they can tackle whatever the challenge might be.
Yeah, too. I love that.
So simple. Something so simple as just listening.
It reminds me of I spoke at a school down in Brizzy last year. It was like 400 kids from grade 7 to 9, I think it was. And I was talking into like stress and, dealing with emotions and, just letting them know about some of the stuff I've done. And I remember near the end, my fiance was running the mic around for some of the kids to ask questions. And it was so cool, bro. They were asking the deepest questions. And I was sort of caught off guard. I was like, whoa, where the fuck do you kids know this stuff? But then there was one moment that was really cool, but also super sad. There was this little dude, bro. I think he was Indian. And he was sitting by himself. I could see him in the crowd, just sort of off by himself, no one else around him. And he just said, like, how did you get through depression when you were younger? And like, I wanted to give him the answers that weren't necessarily PC, but I had to offer the support and all those things. But what I made sure in that moment was that he felt seen. And I think that's for anyone, any human being, is that you're in this world, in this society that everyone talks about importance and being seen and feeling like you matter. And I think helping him feel like he mattered for a moment there was really cool. And like, I can't even imagine how hard it is these days, bro. Like, the kids, that the stuff they're going through, and you've obviously got these things that are adding to it, where you could be bullied not only in person but online now so quickly, and not knowing how to navigate that's it's tough watching it. Like, I see even our community here on the sunny coast, there's a lot of bullying that's happening, a lot of youth crime, kids obviously acting out because probably there's shit happening at home and things like this. And I think the hardest part is, bro, is like, shit travels downhill. And a lot of the parents aren't willing to take their responsibility of knowing that what's left unsaid at home is usually being expressed through the child. So if the parents are going through shit and they're not dealing with their stress, they're not dealing with their relationships, they're not dealing with their stuff, it is literally being just taken on by their kids in their body, in their nervous system, in their responses that they're giving to the world. And enough people don't know that shit. They don't know that even though you're trying to hide your relationship issues with your husband by yelling at them in the room or fighting back and forth in the room, the kids still feel it. You're in their environment. The kids still feel that energy of whatever's going on, even if it's left unsaid, even if you try to hide it from them. Because one of the best books I've read is Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And she says in there, bro, she says something about, it's not the words you hear, it's the words you hear your parents say to themselves. So my mum was always like, honey, you're such a beautiful, smart, powerful boy, rah, rah, rah. I didn't hear any of that. I heard and felt how she spoke to herself, how she put herself down all the time, how she told herself she was fat, she was dumb. That's what I took on, not the beautiful words of, affirmation that she was giving me. It's the words she was saying to herself, because they are our attachments. Like you said, when you start to understand attachment styles, and that your mum especially was the one that brought us into this world, and she's the one that keeps us alive for a year and a half. We're the only animal in this kingdom that literally needs someone to keep us alive for the first year and a half of our lives. We can't walk. Like, you see bloody calves and shit get up and start walking and stuff, right? They're a bit dodgy, but we can't do any of that for a long time. So not only physically do we become attached to our mothers, but emotionally, nervous system. And we take on a lot of the shit from mum as well through her nervous system. Was she anxious during birth or during pregnancy? Has she got traumas that she still never worked through from her mum, and vice versa, generationally, that have now been, and I've done some research on this, and I can't remember the exact one because I like to mention that when I'm saying that sort of stuff, but I can try to track it down for you, bro. They talk about ghost genetics. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but
Briefly, yeah.
yeah, it's like the genetic codes that hold those traumas and things that they never dealt with. We end up taking it on. So it's like generational trauma. They talk about it, where we've taken on the nervous system and everything else, and the traumas within the body that the parents hold, even grandmother or grandfather that might have been in wars and stuff like that. They talk about it being past life stuff, and whether you believe in that or not, I do. At the end of the day, there's stuff that we probably get a chance to change, so that generationally we don't pass it on to our kids or the people around us. So it's all these bits and pieces coming together off the back of what I said about that little boy. I wonder what his parents are going through at home. I wonder what the people around him that he looks up to, not just at school, because the teachers take on a lot too. My partner's a teacher, and she finds, bro, a lot of the kids these days that come to school, the parents don't show up for them, or they've got a lot of shit going on and they just don't know how to parent them. So she ends up taking on a lot of it, and she's such a beautiful, caring, kind human, and she gives a fuck about her job. She's one of the best music teachers in Australia, and she gives so much to these kids because she sees that they're missing out at home. They're acting out at school because they're missing out at home. And until we sort of see a societal change around parents truly taking a lot more responsibility while also doing their best, because I know a lot of them are, and sometimes it's hard. You can do your best to change your kids, or change yourself to help your kids, but sometimes they get around the wrong kids at school too. I know there's a lot of factors, but for anyone listening that might be a parent, one of the best things you can start to do is change yourself, and the ripple effect into your kids can be pretty much instantaneous, I've found.
Yeah, fucking, there's so many incredible messages within that I know there's so much value that people can take from it. And it's something I've definitely had to come to terms with since diving deeper into this stuff. And a quote that's really helped me is that it's our parents' first time living too.
Yeah.
So the mistakes that they've made and the things that they've done that we have perceived, because we build up our parents to have this godlike aura, this, they can't make mistakes, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that, they're perfect. And then in reality, they've never lived themselves. So they're all experiencing this for the very first time, and trying to offer them the same grace, compassion, and love that we would expect them to offer us if we make a mistake. And although it can be very hard, because again, our perception of our parents when we're growing up from such a young age and everything like that, the more I've been able to do that, the more it's actually helped my relationship, especially with my mum. We've had like a lot of just growing up, single mother household for a majority of my life, and comes with all the things of raising teen boys and things like that. And a lot of this has actually helped me with my relationship with her, and come from a better place of understanding and everything like that. So for those people at home or listening to this, wherever they might be, if they're in their car, with relation to the emotional awareness and internal healing that we keep sort of coming back to, and all of that, where did they start? Like, what is it that you would say is like, start here and then just let that cascade or snowball into bigger and better things?
That's a great question, bro. And first of all, thank you for bringing up the fact that, yeah, I never want to come from a place of blaming. You're spot on. It's like our parents have literally just been doing the best they can with the knowledge they had, and also not invalidating anyone listening your experience if your parents never did do the best they could, because a lot of parents didn't. A lot of parents had the opportunity to be better and do better, but they chose to continue down the path of, beating their kids and things like this. It's like, you don't want to invalidate the little boy and girl's experience, because then that's how those inner child wounds and suppression happens. It's like, yes, you want to forgive, but you also want to, like, a process I went through with my mentor, bro. She took me back to a moment that happened as a kid, and rather than me continually going, because I'm a coach, I go, I know why it happened. You know, it's all good. I love dad. It's all G. But the little boy needed to hear me standing up for him. So in that moment, I stood up for my 10-year-old self, and he felt so seen and heard and loved that he saw now that I'm the man that he's meant to be protected by. I'm the man that he actually gets to connect with, and see that I've become the man that I needed at that time. Now, my dad's a beautiful father. He's done so much for me, and I don't want anyone to perceive that he might have been, you know, awful to me, but it's just moments that have happened that I've done some healing around that have really changed it for me. So, and that, like, I would say inner child work is really powerful, but for someone just starting out, it can be a lot too. So I get a lot of people, bro, to read books first. You know, it's like when you start to see the concepts, you can start to make sense of them logically. And then you start to go, oh, okay, so that's how trauma works, and that's how my emotions work. And understanding your emotional home, I think connecting emotional intelligence is a great place to start. You know, starting to understand your emotions, because a lot of men, especially logically, we don't know how to process emotions. You hear a lot about stoicism, but I find that stoicism without intimacy is just like emotional avoidance. It's kind of like, yes, you can be strong and powerful and not let things bother you, but if you're not connected to your partner, what's the fucking point? Or what if you're not connected to yourself? What's the fucking point? Because those emotions will control you. So starting to understand your emotions, understand somatics, so how your body works and how energy can be stuck in the body, tends to be, you know, those little T and big T traumas. Start to understand mindset around, you know, how the unconscious mind controls most of what we do. Like, your unconscious mind is 95% of your operating system. 5% is the conscious, the prefrontal cortex. So people think, you know, right now, you and I, bro, we're talking. So we're actively talking and consciously thinking of things, and maybe gathering information from what we've stored in our memory, our short-term memory. But when you start to know that, you know, have you ever had a job where you drive to work and 30 minutes goes by and you're like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
Like, that's your unconscious mind working, where it's just doing the automatic things that are already in your programming. So understanding that can be really powerful too, like how the unconscious mind works. And there's some books that I can always provide, like that Brene Brown one, Gifts of Imperfection. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer is really beautiful. I'll never forget when he helped me visually again. I saw it where he's like, if your brain was your roommate, and you spoke to yourself the way that, if you spoke to your roommate, or a roommate spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you stay in that apartment? And straight away you go, fuck no. But you start to understand that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, like you're the awareness of it. You're the soul that's sort of over here witnessing it, and you start to be able to separate that, which is really cool. So Untethered Soul, The Mountain Is You is incredible. The Mountain Is You by Brianna West, I think it is. And that's where she starts to teach you about how you self-sabotage. What are the internal blocks? How do you survival mechanisms that play out that might be classed as self-sabotage? So like we said before in the start, bro, money might be a thing that I'm actually terrified of at an unconscious level. So my survival mechanism is to get rid of it at all costs. So, dude, this might be a wild concept, but anyone listening, please hear me out. If your car and shit is always breaking down, trust me, it's probably something to do with your internals. Like, there's something going on inside you that's making your shit break, where you get to like, oh yeah, I saved $5,000. All of a sudden, your washing machine blows up. There's 4K gone. I'm telling you, from what I've experienced, bro, everything being energy, and our internal world will reflect the external world and vice versa. If you've got shit going on internally and you believe that you can't get ahead for some odd reason, if there's an existential kink, another great book, you will sabotage yourself externally with things breaking down. You will call in shit. You'll hear people start these bank accounts where it's like a rainy day fund. Okay, well, let's create a rainy day then, if that's what you're going to call it, because there's going to be something come up where that 5,000 you've saved will be utilized for something you didn't want to have to utilize it for. Rather than, let's save $5,000 to invest in coaching to change my life, they create like a $5,000 in case something breaks. Okay, well, here's the thing that's going to fucking break. It's like you hear it that from Tony Robbins all the time. The whole like what you focus on, where energy flows, that's what's going to happen. You know, where you focus, if you put energy to it, whether it be positive or negative, it's probably going to happen. So, yeah, I guess again rambling, but those books, understanding emotions, understanding your mind, the unconscious. If you can really at the top of it all understand the unconscious mind and how you are programmed and sort of controlled by your mind, I think that'll really start to help people a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. As you said, long answer, but it's provided the answers that people actually need. Like that's the thing is there's no black and white when it comes to these things. And I think that was really hard for me at the very start. Like I'm a very logical person. And so for me,
Mm.
it's like I needed to combine a little bit of the logic with a little bit of the woo woo. I needed to bring those two together for my brain to actually buy into it. And then the more that I've started to integrate it and the more I've started to see these things play out in reality, and the more I've started to be like, well, fuck, this is actually like, this is what is happening. You know, this is what's happening from this. And once I've started to correct this, then X has occurred over here. It's like, well, that had nothing to do with that, but this is actually changing as a result of that.
Mm.
And as we start to realize how much this is intertwined and our unconscious mind, and I'm pretty sure it's the reticular activating system that is actually responsible for blocking the things out. And the old saying is, you'll never see a yellow car until you want to spot a yellow car.
Yeah, spot on.
If you want to find a yellow car, you'll find a yellow car. If you want to find a problem, you'll find a problem. As you said, with relation to finances, you set up a rainy day fund because it's, you know, oh, I've got $5,000 put away just in case something happens. Something's going to happen that's going to cost that money. And I know myself, I've experienced that plenty of times over the years. It's like all of a sudden this like thing, you're like, fuck, why can't I just get ahead? It always pops up at this time when I'm just like just starting to get the ball rolling. And it's all comes down to that unconscious aspect that we're not even thinking of. And that's the whole point of it, right? Like
Yeah, bro.
that's
Like
what the unconscious is.
it's wild. It's like you start to see it, and if I was to really break it down to the most simple piece, find a 5 minute breath work on YouTube and breathe. Like honestly, when you breathe and starts to unravel the unconscious mind a little bit, then you'll start to find your truth. Something, dude. Mitch Hunter is definitely someone you should get on. He's incredible. He's got 20+ years within meditation, and something he said has really helped me understand meditation more. So now it feels more logical to do because I'm, as much as I'm spiritual and I understand and I've experienced some fucking wild shit in that sort of stuff, I am a very much like I like to logically understand things too. And something he said that I've now framed it as, so he said meditation is just concentration. And so concentration, which leads to a meditative state, will lead to realization. So concentration, meditation, realization. And in that realization, your truth will find you. And if you talk about this level of sort of consciousness that sort of lives above us, and if you've got this block that's always there because you're always doing, you're always thinking, you're always, you know, trying to do shit, that level of consciousness, that wave that's just above us, you'll never have a point of break where the truth can sort of come down through into your brain. Now, a lot of people will have it happen in the shower. I have it happen in the shower a lot. But dude, if you put on a guided meditation on YouTube for like 20 minutes, all you have to do is lay down and breathe and just listen. And you're just breathing. And then sometimes I'll see like aliens and shit, right? It sounds wild, but I literally saw them last week. And then because I was going through another breakthrough around a massive wound of mine, which is the fear of being misunderstood. And I had to move that last week because a lot came up for me. I had some wild shit happening. Some client stuff, some personal stuff, all these things. And the lesson was there. So I could either learn it or let it come back again and it come back again. So I just sat in it. I felt it. I got into the meditative state. I felt what I had to feel. I cried. I got angry, all the things. I let the emotions come through that was stuck around that. And I kid you not, bro, there was like 20 minutes into the meditation. I remember going like this, just like my whole body just like, it was like it stretched and like almost exploded. Part of this, something that was stuck in my body almost released. And that is the work. When that sensation, that energy that's blocked in the body from something that happened probably years ago just shifted within my body. And I feel different this week around the fear of being misunderstood. So it was around like, what are people going to say if they start to question me and like, oh, what's his qualifications, all this other shit? Like, who gives a fuck? They're allowed to. And I get it. But now it's kind of this like, I can feel it in my body. This is the most solid I've been around what I do. because I actually felt the thing that had been sitting in there, because my body never forgot this. Your body keeps a score. And it remembered that feeling of being misunderstood from a very young age. Clearly, it just kept repeating, repeating, and repeating. The lesson would come. I'd feel my stomach would drop. I'd get the sickness. I just sat with it, did the meditation, had the realization in the shower afterwards, bro. And then some crazy shit happened after that, which I might tell you after the podcast. And yeah, I just had this like logical realization, somatic release, and that's the piece where it's like, it all come together, and I feel way better around that wound.
Bro, I fucking love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I've got 3 questions that I want to wrap up on, but
Yep.
firstly, before that, is there, for any young man or woman who's listening to this, who are just beginning to question what they have been taught around masculinity, relationships, and things like that, is there one piece of advice or final words that you could give to them at the beginning of this journey?
Great question. Honestly, bro, I think what changed me is I think relatability is such a big thing in this space. So listen to this podcast episode. Listen to a podcast episode I've done with Jacob O'Neill or other men that are like you. If you're listening and you want men to be relatable to, that, might be a couple of these big dudes just talking about their emotions, part of you will go, maybe it is okay and kind of cool to talk about this shit. And that's where I find it happens, bro. Is like, I'm definitely a coach that gets judged because of how I show up, and I'm okay with it, because what I've found is that there's so many coaches in this space and mentors and whatever you want to call them, trying to bring men to them rather than meeting men where they're at. So I heard this I think it was like a TED talk, and this bloke did a documentary about his mate that killed himself, and I think he called it Steve, and it's just straight up just Steve. But he was the happiest guy. He was really successful, but no one knew that he was really unhappy in deep down. And this guy thought, man, no men are doing this stuff. They're not doing this work. How can I get that to them rather than expecting them to come to these, like Tony Robbins events and like, yeah, let's dance, let's get up, brother, and all this sort of stuff, which a lot of men can't stand or they don't feel comfortable doing. So this bloke just took this documentary to the pub in the UK. He just took him around different pubs, and he'd put it on a big screen TV, and all the men could go down, and women could go down and just sit with their pint and just drink their beers while they quietly listen and watch. And he found that made a bigger change than anything, because they could be met where they felt safe enough to just to see what it's like. They weren't being judged. They weren't being expected to talk up, because that can be a lot when you first start. But he literally just chucked it up at the pub, bro, and they could just sit there and listen to this documentary about this bloke that, took his life, but also helping them understand about mental health. And at the end, they would go, you know what? Fuck, I feel the same. And then they start to have a bit of a conversation about it. So I think that's where I want to be met, and that's what I want to be known for, is being relatable enough that men like ourselves who might be, or maybe even blokes that are just like, they love the footy. Like, I grew up around that. They don't want to hear some dude that's going like, now connect to your divine essence, brother, and feel into it. They just want to have a fucking normal dude, have a normal conversation, and that'll probably help them open up. So, yeah, any of the boys listening, please just find someone that's going to be relatable to you, so that part of you goes, this is okay to talk about. This is cool to talk about. This is, you don't have to stretch yourself to make yourself super uncomfortable in the beginning, but just find that place where you might actually just do that one little bit step next.
Fuck, that's perfect. That's genuinely... That's probably the best advice. And I think I even said it at the start, right? That if I had tried to dive too deep into some of this stuff, I would have probably been scared and gone away.
Yeah.
And it was only because I'd managed to start to discover, different people and try and find people that are a little bit more relatable to me, to make it work for my brain, so that I could actually feel safe enough to actually dive into this. And that relatability is something that is so undervalued, I think, and people, even as coaches, we're always trying to be like, oh, you're dick skin lean bodybuilder. How are you going to relate to the 45-year-old father of 2 who works 45 hours a week, 45 to 60 hours a week, most weeks? It's like, you need to have that point where they can feel comfortable enough to come to you to help them, or to help with the process that they're on and things like that. So that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. And just showing, bro, like showing that we're normal humans too. Like, I never ever want to let people think that I've got it all together and that I'm 20 steps ahead. Like, I'm not. I'm just someone who's doing their best to be better and has come a long way, obviously, but I'm still figuring it all out, and I probably always will be, and that's okay. So that's
Yeah.
one thing I'm saying to that bloke that's really in it right now. I'm like, bro, or you got all these people around you telling, oh, it'd be better if you're making this much money, and this is like, no. My general level of happiness and fulfillment right now is waking up next to my partner and then taking our sausage dog for a pee. Like that, if I get to wake up and feel that happiness of that and going, come on, Squibsy, wee wees, and like go outside and do that, cool, I'm fulfilled. I've got a beautiful life full of love and my environment's sick. If I make good money on top of that, which I am, sick, that's great, but it doesn't mean shit to me because I've got the foundation sorted.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much. So I do have 3 questions that I ask everybody who
Yeah,
comes
bro.
on as a guest. The first one, fairly straightforward. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Ooh, don't put so much pressure on yourself, bro. The biggest one was like always just pressure, pressure, pressure. It's like I have to be better, I have to do better. And the belief system was that if I didn't perform, I didn't get love. So I would say to him, it's like, hey, you're actually worthy just as you are, and it's okay. If you play shit today, it's all good. Don't stress about it. It's what made me quit football. I put too much pressure on myself.
Yeah, it's so fucking
Simple,
relatable.
bro. It really just,
I know. I love that.
yeah, have
This
more
is
self-compassion.
time and a place for all of it. We need depth. We need the simplistic aspect of things too. Otherwise, it's just you need that dichotomy between the 2 different options. Like there's just so many different ways to go about all this stuff. You might have already answered the question, but what is your favorite animal?
I mean, yeah, it's a sausage dog. No, it's actually, bro, gorillas. Funnily enough,
Okay,
like I fucking
it's like I could
love.
have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, gorillas for me. I remember I was really depressed when I was in Sydney living there with my partner. And I remember us going to the zoo and seeing a gorilla for the first time. And I just thought, oh, fuck, look at that thing. Hey, look how powerful it is. Look how cool it is. And funnily enough, there's a really cool story on an episode I did with Charles Missy. And he tells us about the story. He went to the Congo and got to meet see a gorilla for the first time. Bro, for that 15 minutes, go listen to it and just fast forward to that spot. It is the greatest thing you'll ever hear. He full just like makes the gorilla sounds. He tells you about the environment, and that was an online podcast. But I remember when he told me about that, and ever since then, I'm like, I'm going to the Congo to see a fucking gorilla. So that's when
Fuck
that
yeah.
that one gorilla versus 100 guys was going around as a trend.
Yeah.
I lost it. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was pretty funny. I'd always keep having people ask me all the time. They're like, "What do you reckon?" I was like, "Fuck, I don't know. It's
Mm,
tough.
we
It's
look,
a weird way to
depending on
do
the
it."
quality of men, I reckon we've got him.
Yeah, I think I said the same thing. I was like, "Dude, like, is it 100 at once? Is it just one by one? Like, where are we at here? Because we've got to break this down." But last and but not least, what does strength mean to you?
Being able to show up when the world's falling apart. I think the biggest piece is that yeah, you've got so many blokes that are big, strong, muscly guys, but they fall apart as soon as anything goes wrong. And I think, like we said, the true masculine is the ability to hold even when the world's falling apart, because that's the man I would be looking for. There's not the dude that's like jacked and all these things. It'd be epic if there is a big jacked dude that can also hold it emotionally. Like that, take that guy, right? Um, Also, I've seen guys that are 5'6". Like one of my best mates is the most successful dude I know, and the way he shows up is so powerful. And he might be like 5'7" on a good day, but I respect him, and I'm almost a little bit scared of him because of the energy that he holds, and the money he makes, and the business he's got, and the way he shows up as a father and a partner. Just so much respect for him, bro. So like, I look at that and I go, that's fucking strength.
Yeah, that's perfect. And again, just for everybody sitting at home, where can they find you? What have you got going? Give yourself a little bit of a plug.
So, yes, at the moment, I've actually got a men's group program and retreat coming up soon, which is epic. So it's going to be for dads or men who are about to become dads or wanting to be dads. So it's like the 1% fathers essentially. Now, I know I'm not a dad, but I love working with dads because I find that I'm making huge impact because of the ripple effect of that. So it'll be, something where there'll be like 10 of us in a group, and we'll be doing like weekly calls. We'll be going to an immersion during the program as well, where it's like a 2-day immersion together. And that'll be dropping probably within the next month or so, bro. So, I don't know. When does this release?
This is actually coming out this week.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So literally
So this
about,
Friday.
Yeah, sick. So about 4 to 6 weeks from now, there's already about 15 blokes that have hit me up about running another group program because I've just been working with women lately. But I love working with men because like the brotherhood I created last year and the Legion group I did was insane. So that's coming. I've got my podcast at the moment, The Mindset Technician, got some really cool episodes dropping. I'll be doing some workshops, probably some masterclasses online. So if they follow me on the Technician on Instagram, but yeah, bro, that's pretty much in IGs. You'll see everything I'm doing. I'm always updating. Always got links and stuff in there in the bio you can check out for my coaching and everything. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much everything that's happening.
Perfect. I love it. And everyone who is listening, go and follow along on Instagram. I told Trav at the very start, but I actually came across him thanks to ChatGPT. Shout out AI,
Shout out,
recommended
chat.
him
Let's go.
when I was plugging in some things about, episode planning and whatnot. And I was like, oh, try suss out this guy on Instagram and have a bit of a chat. And here we are now,
Dude,
AI
who else
leading the
came
way.
up? I'd love to know that. Who was I grouped in there with?
So it was like they would spit out an individual depending
Gotcha.
upon,
Yep.
because I was like, there was a few times it was spitting out 4 or 5 names at a time. And then it was just trying to trawl through them and having to go through their stuff. I was just like, all right, simplify this for me. I want XYZ attributes and stuff like that. So it was good. It was great. But other than that, thank you very much for your time. I genuinely appreciate this chat more than you realize. And there's so much stuff for me that I can now go and take away from this. So I know that the people listening at home, there's going to be so many actionable steps that you guys can implement. And if you have listened all the way through to this, go back and re-listen again and take it step by step and just start the process. But I thank you, Trav, very much for being here. And I thank everybody else who's been listening as well. Have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.